Hello, my name is Amy O'Kane, and this is my final persuasive speech on unequal education opportunity. Today I want to talk to you about a matter that is so very infuriating to me and has been for years: inequality in America. More specifically, inequality among school districts and quality of education received. After 163 years since the birth of mandated public education, we still do not offer equal education across the board for each child, yet we pretend we do, and justify our actions by saying we are adhering to our Constitution. To get right down to it, there is a huge disparity in the disbursement of equitable resources for schools due to how education is funded and the lack of federal, state, and local government unity on the matter. What really gets me is it has been proven that our economy can significantly be boosted if we close educational gaps, including attainment, achievement, and socioeconomic gaps. Yet we don't. It's almost as if we fear minorities becoming the majority, yet we are all supposedly equal. Isn't that the American dream? Our ancestors all came here in hopes of building a better life, free of oppression and free from fear. Yet that's all I feel, especially for our children and the future of this nation, because we are not unified, and we are not equal, and we are not completely free. Well, unless you live in a zip code that gives you those opportunities. Allow me to explain. The most influential document I found on the subject of unequal educational opportunity was a report from the Equity and Excellence Commission to the Secretary of the Department of Education, called For Each and Every Child. In summary, this report is the perfect solution to unequal education across America. It provides advice on the disparities in meaningful educational opportunities that give rise to the achievement gap, focusing on systems of finance and recommended ways in which the federal government can address these disparities. Today, it is solely the state and local government's responsibility to provide education. Federal government only helps with charter schools and college-level financial aid. The National Conference of State Legislatures, the NCSL, stated that the U.S. Supreme Court case San Antonio School District versus Rodriguez effectively removed the constitutional burden for providing public education away from the federal government and placed it solely on the states. This is called privatization, pretty much saying it's not my problem, it's yours. Yet states can't afford the $700 billion bill providing K-12 education. And whenever the states fight for federal funding or help in any way, every ruling is the same. It is not in the federal Constitution, so we don't have to help. However, our failing economy and overflowing incarceration system is our federal government's problem, which is in a big way a direct result of unequal educational opportunity. If you want to see how different schools provide different education across America, visit a suburban school district. They will have sports teams, music halls, computer labs, edible, healthy school lunches, effective teachers they can pay, air conditioning and heat, and even iPads for every child. Then visit a school in a city. You won't find a single one of these things. What you will find are more police officers than teachers, cockroaches, cages for fighting, and children struggling to survive and not focused on schooling. My boyfriend is an African American from Philadelphia. He told me a story of his education recently, or lack thereof, should I say. He was mainly an auditory learner, so he couldn't read very well, but he learned strictly through hearing. The teachers didn't notice that. He grew up in a poor neighborhood and was a little overweight. Every day he was bullied, and at the end of his elementary education he had already sustained many broken bones and could not yet read. His teachers simply pushed him through the system, and the truancy officers threatened his parents with jail time if they didn't send their son to a school to potentially get harmed each day. By middle school, he was tired of the struggle, so he began studying martial arts. He also bought books on auditory books. Then his mother moved him to the suburbs of northeastern Pennsylvania and placed him in a better school system. Today he tests at a genius level, and he has a black belt in karate. If it were not for him taking the initiative to fight back against such a faulty system, he would become like most children become in that situation. hopeless with no future, probably dropping out by high school from not being able to keep up with that depth of learning and entering a workforce unprepared. This very concept is what breeds failure and high incarceration rates, learned helplessness. If there is a way to fix this problem and a way to boost the economy, why isn't the federal government helping? Federal mandating of closing educational gaps would fix these problems. A recent news article written by Fred Allen stated, not only would closing the education attainment gap result in higher annual earnings for men of color between the ages of 25 and 64, it would also increase the gross domestic product by 1.8%. I know this doesn't sound like a big percent, but in terms of dollars, but it's in the billions. I have a chart here from a study the NCSL had conducted in 2015. It's the economic and fiscal benefits of closing academic achievement gaps. And as you can see, this is an annual return. $551 billion for the GDP, $110 billion for federal taxes, and $88 billion for state and local. Thus, government investments to close educational achievement gaps that cost less than an average of $198 billion annually would pay for themselves in strictly budgetary terms. Critics may argue that closing these gaps and fully phasing in the benefits of improved educational outcomes can take less or more years than this simulation proposes. We agree. In general, the longer it takes to close this gap and fully phase in the benefits, the greater the cost in terms of the loss of potential economic benefits. However, the cost of failing to do this is much greater. The report I spoke of earlier, No Child Left Behind, is in the hands of the federal government as we speak, and it contains countless data on this very matter. The Commission's charge to the government to fix this matter is as follows. An equitable school finance system where the federal, state, and local governments all contribute, not based on tax percentages or zip codes. Quality teachers, principals, and curricula across the board. Earlier childhood education for everyone. Broad access to education and support services, especially to those in low economic statuses, ELLs, special needs, and those in the justice system. Accountability and government reforms making clear who is responsible for what. We as a people need to spread this information, make everyone aware of what is really going on, and maybe the government will change its mind on the matter. To go even a step further, our goal should be unity between school districts, unity between government systems, and then unity in worldwide education as a whole. It shouldn't be a competition of what country does better than the others. It should be everyone helping everyone to grow and better our futures for our children to come. Edley quoted it best when he said, "In America, we believe that fate is not fixed by the circumstances of birth. The surest guarantor of this ideal is educational opportunity, the birthright of each and every child. For so many children today, and many more to come, these American values are made hollow by our failure to ensure equity and excellence through our system of public education. Only health and love of family are more important. Our nation as a whole faces fewer challenges so critical or fundamental, and yet we allow these achievement gaps, which weaken our country internationally, economically, and morally." I posted this last quote and copy of the report for each and every child on my blog and social media sites to spread the word. I encourage you to do the same. Awareness is the first step on the path to the truth. Thank you for listening.